Okay. So first thing on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, we haven't done roll call.
No, the Pledge of Allegiance is first.
Pledge of Allegiance
Oh, I'm
is
sorry.
first. That's
Okay.
okay. So I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United
of the
States
United
of
States of
America
America
and
and
to
to
the
the
republic
republic for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
Yeah.
and
and justice for all.
for all. Now we're to our we call the meeting to order, I guess again, 7:02, and our roll call and establishment of a quorum.
So I'm going to call districts. If you could say your first and last name to help Leah out when she is making the minutes, that would be amazing. So first we have Afton. I'm going to move to Bayless.
Shannon Kohler, Bayless.
Perfect. Brentwood.
Katie Clark, Brentwood.
Perfect. Clayton. Ferguson Florissant. Oh, I think, wait, hold on. Did we get a Clayton? Did we have Chris win?
Yes, Chris is here.
Perfect. All right, I apologize. I moved on too fast. All right. Ferguson Florissant. Hancock Place.
Garrett Meese,
Philip Powell Walker is here for Ferguson Florissant.
Perfect. And then Hancock Place.
Garrett Meese,
Perfect. Hazelwood.
Betsy Rachel for Hazelwood.
Perfect. Jennings.
Harold Austin Jennings.
Perfect. Kirkwood. Kirkwood again. Then we have Ledoux.
Keisha Lee.
Perfect. Limburg.
Megan Vetter.
Maplewood, Richmond Heights. My name is Patrick McKelvey. I'm from Melville. Normandy.
Teresa Pearson.
Perfect. Parkway.
Debbie Hopper.
Pattonville.
Mary Kay Campbell.
Rittner.
Margaret Alban Wilson, Rittner.
Riverview Gardens.
Veronica Morrow Rio, Riverview Gardens.
Rockwood.
Carrie Bockert.
University City.
Laverne Ford Williams, U City, sitting in for Kay Gage.
Valley Park.
Rebecca Minley, Valley Park.
Webster Groves. I'm hearing none for Webster Groves. This is the best attendance we've had since I've been on the governing council. So kudos to all of you. We definitely have a quorum.
Thank you. And before we move forward,
Excuse me.
yes,
This is Jeanette Schoenberg with Afton. I just got here, so I missed my roll call.
Perfect.
All right, Jeanette. Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. So before we get started with the approval of tonight's agenda, I do need to read this statement. It has come to the district's attention that there was a minor calculation error in the June 24th, 2025 budget adjustment that the SSD Board of Education had previously approved. Finance and Business will resubmit this adjustment for board approval for their October 28th meeting, and the Governing Council will subsequently approve this in our December meeting. I therefore ask for a motion to table agenda item 6.01 until that December 1st, 2025 meeting.
Patrick McKelvey, Melville first.
second, Hancock Place, Garrett Meese.
Thank you, Garrett. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. Next up, can we get a motion to approve the amended agenda as presented?
So moved. Debbie Hopper.
Thank you,
Madam
Debbie.
Chair, I'll second. Riverview Gardens.
Thank you, Veronica. Did you get that, Leah?
I did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right. Next up, we have approval of the minutes from our June 2nd. Wait a minute. Yeah, for our June 2nd Governing Council meeting that was sent out in the attachment. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Debbie Hopper, Parkway.
Second,
Thank you,
Debbie
Debbie.
Hubble.
Patrick with the second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right. Next up, we have public comments. Do we have any speakers online? We did receive an email that I will read.
It should just be the email.
All right. So this was a public comment. It's a little lengthy, so I'm going to try and read it expeditiously. To the members of the Governing Council, I'm writing this email to be read as a public comment to address agenda items 5.01 and 5.02. I have friends and family members who work in education. I've known people who have worked for SSD, as well as families that have been helped by them. I have CC'd this email to my Governing Council representative from Melville, as well as the chair of the Governing Council, to make sure that you are aware of my concerns, and hopefully something will be done. Over the past year, there have been multiple stories in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch as well as on local news about the failures of SSD Superintendent Dr. Michael Macklin and his leadership team. Whether it was a Newsweek feature that was paid for by the superintendent to promote himself as reported in the Post-Dispatch, a KSTK news feature about SSD continually being sued by an attorney for compliance and due process issues that has burned through taxpayer dollars, stories citing the false narrative that the district claims it's going broke when an audit firm told them their financial position was strong during a board meeting last November. And then the decision by this superintendent, his administrators, and 5 of its current board members to cut staff benefits when there is a current teacher staff shortage. Meanwhile, their CFO reported they were coming in over $20 million under budget in staff salaries and benefits in her report to the board in July 2025, which is attached to this email. Does this sound like there's evidence of good leadership? SSD leaders and their board members must think so because they voted to give themselves a raise over the summer in one of their board meetings. Riding the ship indeed, but for whom? That same attorney, Diane Dragon, in an interview with KSTK 5, blamed district leadership for not preparing and supporting its teachers and noted that teachers and families are paying the price. As a follow-up to their reporting last February in the Post-Dispatch, which highlighted the forced relocation of staff, a piece was published on September 8th in the Post-Dispatch citing that 19 of 36 teachers left the district instead of accepting the transfer. Thus, more vacancies were created by this plan instead of solving the shortage problem. It's no wonder Hazelwood, a district impacted by the lack of special education staffing, discussed creating their own special education services during their board meeting in August 2025. While watching an SSD Board of Education meeting on YouTube in August, I heard a public comment stating that over 200 certified special education staff members resigned or retired from SSD last year. And the district had only 100 new teachers at their new teacher orientation for this year. If you're paying a good salary, but can't recruit everyone needed to come to work for you, and that many people are leaving, there is a simple reason for this. The current leadership regime has created a toxic culture. Can this regime prove that its workforce is not overwhelmed and burned out to the point staff are leaving in record numbers? I've heard talk about a workload formula that's been worked on for almost 2 years, but it still wasn't ready to go for the start of this year. I don't know many places where you get 2 years to fix a problem, fail to fix it, and things get worse, but you still get to keep your job. Even if this formula is rolled out, the district is short-staffed. There is no one to take the load off another teacher without them being more overwhelmed. Maybe the district can solve the teacher shortage problem by sending some of their well-paid administrators back into the classroom. They can even keep their current salary. Any volunteers? While SSD can't hire enough teachers, they did create a new admin position and hired a new administrator over the summer. SSD is a great place to work if you're in upper management, not so great if you aren't. A lot has been written and said about Dr. Macklin's slogan, "Riding the Ship." Currently, this ship looks like the Titanic, and its leadership team is akin to the musicians on its deck, pretending everything is okay and playing a tune as the ship sinks. They haven't noticed or cared that families and staff have been jumping off the ship for some time. Governing Council members, everything I have reported above is a matter of public record. If the SSD leadership team denies anything said above, you have the means to fact check it through those news sources and board notes. File a sunshine request to see how many vacancies there are in each district instead of looking at one number, or review the large numbers of staff who have left the last 3 years. I plead with you to exercise your oversight power. to ask questions that need to be asked and demand that something be done. If there are no meaningful changes, do whatever responsible person with oversight power should do in a democratic society to its ineffective leaders who promise something but don't deliver. Show them the door. And that is from M.B. Blankenship, 5800 Kurth Road, St. Louis, 63128. All right. Hearing no more public comment, we will move on. Our next agenda item is the superintendent's report. Dr. Macklin.
Yes, thank you, President Lee. Appreciate it here. We will continue to remain professional and focus on the work and the service of our students and our staff. Thank you all for being here this evening. We have a couple of reports that are going to come to you tonight. We have a budget presentation, which is pretty typical. We provide an update on our budget, where we are since last year at each of our quarterly meetings. And so this will be the first. Then after that, we will delve into our orientation for our new governing council members of really the roles and responsibilities and really the aspects of the organization. So first up tonight is our budget presentation by our CFO, Cindy Rowman. We did get a couple of questions that were submitted. We were able to get those answered, President Keisha Lee, in a timely manner. And so we did submit this presentation about 2 weeks before. So Cindy Rowman is going to take this away.
All right. Thank you, Cindy.
Good evening, Governing Council members, Board of Directors, Superintendent Macklin, our district leadership, and community members. My name is Cindy Ryleman, Chief Financial Officer, and tonight we're going to go over the district's budget update. Next slide. So just a reminder of our budget goals. Staffing continues to be a huge factor in the fiscal stability and responsibility of the district. We will continue to evaluate our positions, review our vacancy rates and other pertinent information and data to ensure that we have the proper staffing in place. We also continue to evaluate our capital projects needs and the reallocation of the tax levy. We continue to review the 10-year facilities plan and adjust the tax levy for the capital projects fund as needed. And finally, we continue to evaluate our non-wage cost containment measures and opportunities in the areas of purchase services and supplies in order to meet that goal area as well. Next slide. So this is our financial summary of the operating funds. Again, the operating funds represent the general fund and the special revenue fund only. A reminder to the Governing Council that the budget is a fluid document, right? So it's our guide that drives and guides us throughout the fiscal year as we make decisions. In addition, there are a lot of competing factors and variables that we are contending with as we are reviewing and continually updating our budget information. Those include the senior property tax freeze and credit program. At this time, that tax effect is still unknown as many districts, school districts, political subdivisions, including fire districts and ambulance districts, are setting their tax rates. Also, the true impact of how the weighted average membership is affecting the basic formula calculation and the enrollment numbers for school districts. And finally, various legislation that we're contending with, whether it be the foundation formula task force that's in play, the property tax considerations that are being discussed and presented, as well as school choice and vouchers. So you can see FY25 is a preliminary actual column. We are projecting to end fiscal year 25 with about $58 million deficit from an original $75 million deficit and resulting in about just over a 41% fund balance. Final expenditure reports, which are annual reports that we submit to DESE, are due by September 30th, and that will help us close out our fiscal year 25, and we will update the Board of Education as well as the Governing Council on our final fiscal year 25 numbers when those are available. And although many of our strategies have helped us in righting our ship, and a lot of hard work has been done at reducing our deficit, there is still a lot of work to do. This is a 5-year journey. The overall budget deficit for the operating funds for fiscal year 26 is approximately $44.7 million, with a projected fund balance of 34.67%. Next slide. This slide is a graphical presentation, again, showing how we are working to reduce our deficit spending. We started with the original FY25 budget of just under $75 million deficit. We reduced that to a preliminary actual of $58 million deficit. And then with a FY26 preliminary budget of 44.7. So we are making progress, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Next slide. So this is a graphic that we like to present and keep in front of both our Board of Education and our Governing Council. It's our year-over-year fund balance changes. So the first orange graph is our original previous path that the district was on and the fund balance trajectory that we were facing, compared to the blue line, which is our current fund balance targets for our district and the forecast that we're presenting. As you can see, the percentages do start to dip below 30% fund balance in the next few years. So we will still need to focus on our strategies of righting the ship to make sure that we continue to maintain our services to our partner districts as well as our students. Next slide. And then I'll be happy to entertain any questions that the Governing Council has at this time.
Garrett Meese, Hancock Place. I have a question, and it relates directly to the orange line versus the blue line. Historic purposes, how did we get to the orange line, and why did that take place? What was the causation for that extensively egregious deficit spend budget that was approved by the council?
So those were decisions based previously and primarily based on expenditures that the district agreed into. So whether it was negotiation, cost increases of supplies and purchase services that were unanticipated, that all promulgated the deficit spending that was going to be pretty severe in that orange line.
So the budget cuts and the staffing cuts are in direct relation to what happened previously to Dr. Macklin becoming the superintendent. Is that correct?
So that is correct. That is correct. And Garrett, we will say here that there were, to Cindy Rama's point, there were a number of expenditures that took place that contributed to those pieces to the orange line.
Are there any additional questions?
Sheila Powell Walker, Ferguson, Florissant. Yes, Sheila Powell Walker, Ferguson, Florissant. I think I just kind of wanted to just get a little bit more information. I understand that it sounds like there are any number of reasons why that sharp decline in the fund balance may have happened. But I guess, I heard a number of things named, but I guess I'm just curious to know, what are the biggest things, right? Like, what are the biggest things that were the cause of the decline in the fund balance? I know that it's because there were some agreements and some, obviously some things entered into that maybe were not sustainable financially, but what were those things?
So Sheila Paul Walker, there were a number of items that was mentioned before. Part of the that took place, part of it was as it relates to negotiations. There was also pieces of expenditures that was not planned as if it just became the students. And so there were a number of pieces, but part of that was some of the cost that took place with negotiations also.
So there were unplanned expenditures, and are you able to speak to what those were or what any of them were?
Yeah, I could get in and provide the Governing Council with some specific detail if that's what we're looking for. I can give you guys a breakdown. We reviewed this last year at a retreat and reviewed it again last year, but I would be more than happy to provide you guys with a specific breakdown of what that cost was. I just want to make sure I'm answering the question.
Thank you.
No problem.
Megan Vetter, Limburg. Could you please remind me what the kind of ideal spot for the fund balance is? I had heard you say that since it was dipping below 30%, that there was concern there. What is the ideal? Is it like 25, 35?
Go ahead, Cindy.
Our target is between 30 and 35%. When we get the annual secretary of the board finalized, we've submitted it based on our August 15th information, but because we're an accrual date basis at the end of the year, we're still waiting till those FERs are done to submit an updated ASBR. And so once that's done, I'll recalculate to see if that percentage target has changed. But right now, 30 to 35% is our target fund balance.
And when Cindy Rahman arrived, she did that DESI target, and that 30 to 35% is really what we need for 6 months of reserves if anything was going to need to happen. And so that target rate is where we want to be for the 6 months of reserves to ensure that we have some stability if anything ever took place.
And that comes down to, I'm sorry, Garrett Meese, thanks for place again. And the fund balance and those things are, as we all should know as board members, is for things like the impending doom that's facing us in the federal government right now, that they're going to shut down the government again. It allows funding to continue to operate the district during those periods of time.
Yes, a healthy fund balance helps cash flow us until we start receiving a lot of our property tax revenues in December.
Debbie Hopper, Parkway. I have a couple of questions, please. Ms. Rahman, you mentioned that you're going to be submitting the final FY25 numbers to the state, and I believe that's due by September 30th. Is that correct?
Final expenditure reports, which are done for our grant revenues, yes, are submitted by September 30th.
Okay, so anything related to this recent error that was detected that isn't going to be going back to the board again until October and the SSD Governing Council that needs to be addressed before these numbers go to the state?
So the minor calculation that we're going to address has to do with the fiscal year 25 budget. It doesn't have to do with the fiscal year 25 actuals. So the information that we report to DESI will be our actual expenditures and our actual revenues. And so that correction won't have anything to do with our reporting to DESI.
Okay, so can you just clarify then how this issue became related to the budget and not the actual?
So a budget adjustment was presented. The budget for the revenue source, it was a one line item, one object code that needed to be adjusted. We were adjusting the budget down to what we actually received. And so the budget is being adjusted to reflect actual. It has nothing to do with it has to do with what actually happened, but it's the budget side, not what was actually received by the district. That's all accurate in the system and being reported.
So it's a projections line item, not an actual budget line item, correct? It's just a projection.
Yeah, it's just the budget amount. It's not the like typically you would see budget, what was actually received, kind of a difference, right? This is just the budget that was being adjusted.
Okay, so that's not anything that is going to the state right now?
No, the DESI doesn't. We don't report any budgets except for like grant budgets and EPEGs, right? When you get allocations and you do budgets and stuff like that. But other than that, DESI doesn't get any of they don't ask for our budget document. They don't ask for any budget information technically from school districts.
Okay, all right, I understand. Okay, and can we just the other thing, can we go back and clarify? I know we had, going back to governing council meetings regarding this fund balance percentage and why we are where we are. My understanding through some conversations is also that it also had to do with some reporting of information that wasn't highlighted well to both the Board of Education and the Governing Council, and that numbers were not matching to what was when Dr. Macklin was going through these numbers, and that the status of the district was actually worse than what was anticipated because some of these numbers weren't matching up. Is that still the case?
So if you're speaking, I'm getting some feed. I'm sorry, through
There's
somebody.
a lot of feedback coming from you, but
Somebody's feed is coming through.
I
If you're
believe it's Debbie's microphone because it's every time she's speaking. So I'm not sure what's going on with your speaker over microphone over there, Deborah, but you seem to have some interference coming across your microphone.
I can try a different pair, see if that helps. Does that help?
Yes, you sound a lot better.
Okay. All right. It's the headphones. Sorry.
So Debbie Hobart, thank you for your question. And I think your question really centers around inaccuracies that were presented to the Board of Education and to also the Governing Council. There was a determination that took place, and I think this kind of also really yields to Dr. Paul Walker's question, that there was inaccuracies in numbers that was presented to the Board of Education, and that same inaccuracy in numbers was presented to the Governing Council. And so the Governing Council and the Board of Education made a decision with the numbers that they had that were in front of them, and after further review, those numbers were inaccurate. We have, as you guys know, we started 2 years ago with the plan of righting the ship, and I understand that the impact that this means for the entire organization. However, we're committed to ensuring that we maintain a healthy fund balance and that students are receiving services. We added 414 staff previously, the last two years, to the tune of $26 million. Without that time, IEP minutes increasing. And so we have to get to a point where we are still providing services, but at the end of the day, we have to ensure that we are inspecting what we expect. And so, Debbie Hopper, to your question, yes, there were inaccuracies that were presented to the Board of Education and the Governing Council.
Thank you.
But again, that was prior to Dr. Macklin taking over.
I have a question, Teresa Pearson, Normandy. With the budget, as far as the fund balance percentage, is it the same requirement as, I guess, other districts, at least 3%, nothing below 3%?
Yes, that is a state requirement. Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure it was the same all across the board. Thank you.
Any additional questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Cindy and Dr. Macklin. Next up on the agenda is the FY26 Special School District Orientation.
Yeah, so we have an orientation this evening. This orientation is geared and tailored toward our governing council members that are new, just as it relates to the different aspects of the organization. So we will delve into that presentation next. Great, next slide. So the first 4 slides, next slide there, Mark. The first 4 slides are really going to be about the organization. As we know, SSD was formed in 1957. Really, this is really when SSD was formed was transformative because IDEA was not started until 75. And so these pieces at the inception were transformative and really providing the services that students need. Next slide, Mark, for me there. Here, of course, we have our technical education programming, which began in 66. And so this is really the genesis, and you can see the column to the right, which really speaks to the genesis and the pieces of the milestones regarding special school district history. Next slide, Mark. Again, we are the 13th largest employer here, and we talked a little bit about that deficit spending earlier. Our expenditures are roughly around $638 million, with our revenue at about $558 million. And so we are ensuring here that the 24,000 students that we serve receive services and that we are providing those services daily. Next slide for me, Mark. This really gives the breakdown with about 90% of our students in our partner school districts, but this provides the breakdown of our students and really the areas that we serve as it relates to SNAP and homebound and Summit Academy, which is formerly known as our Juvenile Detention Center. Next slide for me, Mark. When we talk about the roles and the responsibilities of the governing council, and these are just a few here, just a few of them here. Number one, of course, is to elect the SSD Board of Education members. We have that election in March. Also to approve and to monitor the SSD budget, which is the reason why we have a budget presentation now at each of our quarterly meetings. Approve the long range plan, which is our comprehensive school improvement plan. You'll get to hear a little bit of that from Dr. Bolton a little later. And then at least to meet at least 4 times a year. Next slide for me, Mark. Of course, when we talk about here the election process, again, I spoke to one of the major roles of the governing council member here of the board is really to elect our 7-member board to a 3-year appointment. Each one of our board members represents 7 sub-districts here. Next slide for me, Mark. And so we have President Meeks here, who represents sub-district number 1 here. We have Dr. Dan Cuneo, who represents sub-district number 2 here. We have Dr. Aaron Beavers, who represents sub-district number 3 here. We have Latoya Nelson, who represents sub-district number 4 here. We have Dr. Joseph Torres, who represents sub-district 5 here. We have Director Suda, who represents sub-district 6, and we have Dr. Asner, who represents sub-district 7. Next slide, Mark. Again, when we talk about the Board of Education's responsibility, which is different from the governing council's responsibility, of course, to set policy and direction, of course, hire and evaluate the superintendent, engage and excite and connect with the community, approve the strategic plan, and then also approve the district's budget. Next slide, Mark. We have our Parent Advisory Council, which is our PAC, which consists of 4 or 5 parents, really each from our 22 St. Louis County districts. And so those PAC members are really there, comprised of families who collaborate to really comprise and improve education. Next slide there. So we have our district leadership team, and you're going to hear from each one of them tonight just regarding the areas that they oversee here and what those pieces really mean, and then delve into those pieces so you'll be able to ask any questions about those pieces. Next up, I believe, is Dr. Bolton. But before Dr. Bolton, any questions about what I presented there?
Hi, this is Betsy Rachel from Hazelwood. I have a question about the sub-districts. I'm just curious, how are those determined? And like, is it based on the census? Is it based on student enrollment? Is it based on specifically SSD student enrollment in those districts?
I'm sorry, Betsy Ray. So there was a change roughly around 3 years ago to the sub-district, which was based on the census data and the number of individuals in that subcategory.
Okay, so the sub-districts are based on census data, which isn't necessarily the same as like school enrollment.
Correct.
Okay. And then, so then are they typically for 10 years, or will it be updated with the next census? Is that how that works?
Yeah, we can take a look at that. Typically, I believe that the census is what drives that, but I can take a look at that and provide that answer for you.
Thank you. I would appreciate it.
No problem.
That was my only question.
Thank you. So if there are no more questions about the...
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry. You were not done yet. Okay.
No, go ahead, Gary Misa. I apologize.
No, I was just, I thought I was actually from the fiduciary and statutory standpoint of the responsibility of a board member, which also transcends over to the governing council because we're still board members. Could you dive into that on what our full responsibilities are?
Yeah, I will say that when you talk about just as any board member, and you talk about, I believe the statute is 162 here for any board member, it is 162.091 that has the full effect as it relates to board member responsibility. So what you're speaking to, Garrett Meese, is the individual or the board member has the right and shall willfully execute all duties of that board member. So anyone who's a county clerk, county treasurer, school board member, officer, employee, or other officer has the right to exercise those roles of a board member. So what you're probably speaking to, Garrett Meese, is, well, what happens if a individual does not exercise that right? Is that what you're speaking to, Garrett Meese?
Correct. That is correct.
So the state statute says that if an individual does not execute that right, then they could be guilty of a misdemeanor, which could consist of a fine or jail time, if that's what you're speaking of.
It is, and it actually speaks directly to some of the concerns I have, and actually some of the concerns that hopefully the person who sent that letter in to the governing council is listening this evening, because I'd love to clarify some things for her and for me.
Can we stick to the agenda? Because that's not really where we are right now, Garrett.
Well, I mean, it's the orientation of new board members, correct?
Yeah, but you're speaking to a public comment, and we don't respond to public comment.
I'm not responding to her public comment. I'm actually, I've got my own comments, and it relates to actually informing the new board members and the current board members of what happens when we fail to actually carry out our duties as board members. And that is actually our current fiscal financial crisis that SSD is in dealing with currently, because even after I was removed, had Dr. Keenan had me removed from the council because I spoke out against what she was doing, and the entire council at the time voted to pass a budget except for me, and I'm the only one who's qualified to speak on this, because the rest of you that were present at the time voted to pass the budget that we're currently facing this crisis on. And it's not Dr. Macklin that did it. In fact, I was greatly offended by the way you treated Dr. Macklin during his first meeting, when you chastised him to try to explain how he's going to keep this from happening again, when you actually permitted it to happen, because I requested of the governing council to put Dr. Keenan and Mr. Hogue under oath, as is our fiduciary responsibility under state statute. And you and Veronica denied my request and allowed the passage of that budget. And that's put us in the crisis that we're currently in. So you can't blame anybody else except for the council, because the council, all those present, minus myself, and the ones that are new today, you need to learn what really can happen if you don't do your job. Because this is where we're at today, because of what this council did a couple of years ago and allowed to happen. This is why we're here. This is what happened. In fact, I wrote a letter to the board, to the SSD board, okay, the day after the meeting that Dr. Keenan actually attempted to completely eliminate SSD's fund balance percentage minimums, because she knew, just like I informed all of you, that orange line on that document is exactly what I told all of you was going to happen if you approved that budget. And not a single one of you questioned it. Every single one of you voted for it. And that is why we're at where we're at today, because all of you failed to do your job. All of you. And you're all responsible. And Keisha and Veronica, both of you owe me a great apology, but not just me. You owe every single taxpayer in St. Louis County a great deal of apology, because you allowed this to happen. And then all of you turned around and voted them both back onto the council as chair and vice chair. This is
Garrett,
ridiculous.
hey,
I
Garrett,
think that we're off
Garrett,
topic.
let's
And I would
continue.
just like to say that as you stated, the entire governing council approved the budget, and we have rehashed this a number of times, and we also have been informed that we were given false information.
Ironically enough, you're all very
May
highly
I
educated.
finish?
Has everybody graduated high school here?
May I finish?
Sure,
May
go
I
ahead.
finish?
Yeah.
So we were all given false information, and we have rehashed this situation a number of times. And I think that in full transparency, which is why we get a budget update at each and every meeting, as requested from Dr. Macklin, to continue to make sure that we are getting the accurate information. So there's no need to continue to rehash this. I think we need to move on with the agenda.
I have one more thing to say, and I'm going to say it very
we need to move on with the
it very
agenda.
clearly.
Garrett,
I'm going to guess that every single person on this call right now has at least graduated high school. Many of you actually have
Garrett,
higher
you're out of
education
order.
degrees. I quit school when I was 16, and I figured it out. And I told all of you about it. All of you ignored it.
Thank
Garrett
you.
Meese,
You're
thank
out
you.
of order. Can
Thank
we
you, brother.
proceed with the agenda? Thank you.
Yes. So next up, and I'm sorry to do that to you, Dr. Bolton, but next up is Dr. Bolton, who is going to discuss the CSIP and strategic plan, just as it relates to Dr. Bolton serves as Chief of Learning, Teaching, Learning, and Accountability. Before Dr. Bolton goes, let me say this to you all. We truly understand, yes, that we are in a financial crisis and we have financial issues. Yes, we understand those pieces. However, the goal at the end of the day is to focus on how we move forward with these pieces and how we can ensure that we are providing services to students across the county. We accept the challenge that we have, and we move forward with it on a daily basis to ensure that we are meeting the needs of students and staff. And so we take that and accept that and understand what the pieces really mean. Dr. Bolton, you are up next.
Actually, this is Betsy Rachel from Hazelwood. President Lee, just real quick, I've noticed the interpreter is no longer visible on my screen, and I want to make sure that our meeting is as accessible for our deaf and hard of hearing patrons as possible.
I think they switched.
I see her here. She's here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they changed interpreters as they do in our live meetings.
Okay, well, I was looking for it and there wasn't one highlighted anywhere for me. So I apologize for the interruption.
No problem. Dr. Bolton?
Thank you. So as Dr. Macklin said, I am Dr. Molly Bolton. I am the Chief of Teaching, Learning, and Accountability. And under my role with the title of accountability comes the strategic and the CSIP plan. Next slide, please. So as we created any plan in our district, this is kind of the process we use to ensure equity, as it is one of our core values. Mm-hmm. We look through the information sources and then again, look at that through the equity lens. And that's where we develop our strategic plan and our comprehensive school improvement plan, or CSIP plan. And then from there, all other district improvement plans are tied back to our strategic plan and our comprehensive school improvement plan. We then look at those plans through the lens of equity, and that's where we find student success. Next slide, please. This is a graphic that was developed by our communications department that really shows the difference between a strategic plan and a comprehensive school improvement plan, or CSIP plan. What you'll notice is that our strategic plan focuses more on our organization as a whole. So therefore, it focuses on operations as well as instruction, where our CSIP plan focuses more on instruction and the impact on students. Next slide, please. This highlights the three major strategic plan goals that we have. Our first goal is around systems. Our second is around resources and equity of those resources. And then our third is around relational communication. Next slide, please. Our comprehensive school improvement plan goals, we do have 3 of those as well. The first really being focused around student success and evidence-based practices. The second really focuses around decision-making for our students to meet our vision and mission. And then our third is around creating environments and systems around our highly mobile students. Both of these plans will be expiring in June of 2027. And so we will be working in the spring of this year and most of next year to write our new plans. Next slide, please. We do report quarterly to the Board of Education on each one of our goals and the strategies underneath those goals. And then we update the Governing Council 3 times a year. Those reports are completed by my office. Next slide, please. And now we will turn it over to Chiquita Moore, our Chief of Partner Districts.
Thank you, Dr. Bolton.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chiquita Moore, Chief Partner District Officer, and I will be providing you with information regarding partner districts. Next slide. Our partnership. Within our partnership agreement supports our efforts and work to collaborate with each of the 22 districts that we serve. Here you will find those areas that are identified in the 7 categories. These areas are our most critical areas to ensure that we are providing the best support and establishing relationships to support our staff, students, and families throughout St. Louis County. Focusing on student services from the related services standpoint, staffing, looking at our relationships with each of our districts through our liaison relationships, as well as our biggest area of collaboration of resources and responsibility, our supports with career technical education and ensuring that students have a pathway to enter into those programs, teaching, learning, and accountability, ensuring that those relationships are there between both districts, supporting disproportionality, family engagement, and having those opportunities to engage with other divisions and departments within special school districts to support our families again, as well as data and technology. Next slide. The partnership agreement is a review that happens on an annual basis. Again, it focuses on the collaboration between both districts. This year, we will be focusing on really looking at revisions for the plan, which will consist of representation from each region and district to support that work, ensuring that we look at all 7 areas throughout the partnership agreement. This committee will be established this fall with the expectations to have a final draft prepared to present to our Board of Education by the spring. Next slide. Early childhood education. This is another area that is supported through our partner districts as well. I think you may have missed some slides, but I'll go ahead and reference those slides that have been missed. There are 22 districts that we serve, 265 schools, and 1 charter school. You should have information that informs you of each of the 22 districts and the executive director who supports those districts. We've also provided information for each of those individuals that provide leadership in those districts. With early childhood education, this is where special school district supports 18 sites throughout St. Louis County. We have 1 director, and we also have several special education coordinators who are listed in this area and can provide information if you can advance to the next slide. Here you have the information that informs you of each of our coalition districts. These are districts that provide their own early childhood special education services, and you see listed to your right those districts and sites that we provide direct early childhood special education services to. Next slide. Disproportionality. This is an area where we support several districts throughout St. Louis County. If you move to the next slide, you'll see those objectives for the work that we have to support each of our districts, ensuring that we look at the representation of students, African American students in those populations with high suspension rates. Next slide. This is where we know disproportionality exists when we look at students in a specific with a disability or identified with a particular disability. They may be placed in more restrictive settings, or they may be suspended and or expelled than students from other groups. Next slide.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Grigsby. I'm the Deputy Superintendent, and one of the areas is under my leadership is special education schools and programs. Next slide, please. So a special school district has two levels of separate schools. One is public separate and one is private separate. We contract with 9 private separate agencies, but we serve many of our students through our public separate schools. Ackerman is the elementary school for North County. Northview is the high school. Blitzinger and New Owner serve the central part of the county, and Southview is a K through 21 years of age school in our southern part of the county. In addition, we have countywide programs, Bridges, which support students with severe social emotional needs, and Summit Academy, which is the Juvenile Detention Center school. Next slide, please. In addition, we have a vocational skills program, which serves our students who need additional post-secondary preparation in the form of job skills, soft skills, and that can be done at our vocational skills program sites. We have them across the county. We serve about 221 students, 18 years of age to 21. These students have met the graduation requirements, but do need a little bit more support. We also provide transition services across the county as we work with students really as young as elementary all the way up into high school, preparing them for their post-secondary experience. Next slide, please. Thank you.
All right. Good evening. My name is Kevin Andert. I am the Chief of Career and Technical Education and Operations for Special School District. I'm here to talk to you about career and technical education, but just, I also oversee facilities, our distribution center, transportation, and safety and security for Special School District. If you go to the next slide. So our high school programs, our programs range from programs like automotive and welding, traditional industrial areas, to health sciences, information technology, and cosmetology. So a wide variety of opportunities for high school students to engage with us. All students who come to our programs at North Tech and South Tech remain enrolled in their partner district and just come to us for the part of their day for career and technical education. So they're still going to graduate for their home high school, but they are coming to us for a program that's not available at their home high school. Transportation is provided, and we also serve students in parochial and private settings and homeschool in addition to public school students. Next slide. On your screen, you can see the breakdown of which partner districts go to which of our career technical education centers. So you can see North Tech's list of districts there, South Tech's list of districts. In addition to our high school-based program, we also offer an adult education program. It's an LPN program called Applied Tech. That's open to any student regardless of geography. They don't have to live in St. Louis County to apply to that program, but that is a tuition-paying program. And we have 4 starts a year in that LPN program. Next slide.
Good evening, Wendy Pendergrass, Chief Compliance Officer. Next slide. I have the honor of supporting several divisions from Office of Workforce, Teaching and Learning, Student Services, Special Education, Non-Public, Purchase of Service, Homebound Federal Programs, and of course, our most important compliance, which is merely not an obligation for special education, but is fundamental in all of the education that we do for our students. Next slide. Next slide. I also have the pleasure of supervising and working with the ladies of Special Education Non-Public, which is our staff program. We provide services, special education services during the day and after school in our parochial schools, home schools, and other programs. I also support the Homebound Department, which provides special education, medical services for students in the most restrictive environment. Next slide.
Hi, I'm Alan Wheat, Chief of Student Services. Next slide, please. The departments of the Student Service Division support students with their related and supplementary aids and services. That's about 15,500 students that receive related services. We address barriers to learning by coordinating supports, delivering specialized services, and partnering with our families and districts. Our focus is equity, problem solving, and dependable service, so every student can meaningfully access instruction and succeed. Next slide.
Hello, I'm Molly Bolton again, and I am the Chief of Teaching, Learning, and Accountability. Next slide. Under Teaching, Learning, and Accountability, we house a lot of different divisions. We house the Curriculum Department for our career and technical and special education schools, as well as the Professional Learning Division. Next slide. As mentioned before, I also supervise the strategic and CSIP plan monitoring. Evaluation and research does fall under this office, as well as our family and community engagement division, otherwise known as FACE, and our applied behavior analysis division, otherwise known as ABA, as well as the equity division. Next slide, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Daryl Diggs. I'm the Executive Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility for the Special School District of St. Louis County. Next slide, please. In our department, we take great pride in taking the equity framework and seeing it to its conclusion, meaning that we were able to accomplish and also have ongoing collective actions that we were able to push forward, also work through across our 22 partner districts. But in this statement that you see on your screen, it is very important for us to continuously focus on an intentional focus, purposeful engagement, as well as individualized instructions for all of our students, and also do that in conjunction with our staff across the county. Next slide. Now, having said that, what does that mean? Working with our staff across all of our spaces, it's important that we're able to empower them to be their best selves with knowledge and also resources to be able to advocate for DEI and A. And so through my experiences and through our work as a department, what does this look like? Again, we put together professional learning that is tailored to the needs of students. That's number one. Number two, we deeply connect with our staff to help them with students and also elevate our level of inclusion across our spaces. And so with this work, we have a mighty department, even though we're small, and we're excited to continue this work into the new year. Next slide.
Good evening. I'm Katina Lyles, Chief Human Resources Officer. Next slide. So the Human Resources Department has these two primary functions of insurance and benefits and talent acquisition. So our insurance and benefits arm aims to assist employees as they onboard during their life cycle with the district and as they retire. We support them with eligibility, enrollment, and our health plans, and just access to a wide range of wellness opportunities that we have. We also manage workers' compensation and focus on ways to ensure a safe work environment for all. And our talent acquisition team similarly assists and supports staff from the time they apply, are hired, and onboarded all the way through the employee's life cycle as well into retirement. In addition, we also facilitate collective bargaining and work collaboratively with all of our district's departments. Next slide. So as you can see, the district has more than 5,000 full-time staff and close to 500 part-time. We have a highly experienced staff averaging about 12 years of teaching experience. And that group also holds at 83% of them holding advanced degrees. And also on the right, you can see a breakdown of staff by role, which visually shows you that our largest group are our teacher level staff. Next slide.
Good evening, Cindy Ryleman, Chief Financial Officer. I supervise business and finance, which encompasses accounting, purchasing, payroll, as well as Medicaid. Next slide. School districts are governed by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. They provide guidance as to how we're supposed to account for our revenues, expenditures, and our financial reporting based on the information shared in the financial accounting manual. According to statute, there are 4 funds that we must account our finances from, and those include our general incidental fund, which is our day-to-day operations, our special revenue fund, capital projects fund, and debt service fund. Next slide. The general incidental fund, as I mentioned, really encompasses our day-to-day operations. So anything that is not expended or recorded in another fund is recorded in the general incidental fund, from instructional, transportation, food, and basic utilities. Our special revenue, or what they call the teachers fund, they call it the teachers fund primarily because it is restricted for certified expenditures. And so revenues and expenditures that relate to teacher salaries and benefits, tuition payments to other school districts are reported in this fund. The primary revenues for both of these 2 funds, which we call our operating funds, pretty much come from our local property taxes, as well as state and federal funding. Next slide. Again, our budget goals are primarily around our righting the ship of staffing, our capital projects reallocation of the tax levy, as well as our non-wage cost containment strategies that surround our purchase services and supply areas. Next slide.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Henry, the Chief Communications Officer for the district. Next slide. So our communications efforts look probably very similar to those that are in your districts. And so tonight I just wanted to give you a brief overview of our internal communication efforts and external communication. Because of the dual system where we have staff in both our SSD system and partner districts, we rely heavily on our intranet and our staff newsletter to communicate information to our staff. We just revamped our intranet this past school year and have made it much more efficient with better search features and have position-specific hubs for staff members to be able to find information much more quickly and efficiently when looking for information on SSD and the programs and information related to their positions. One of the other areas that we focus on is employee engagement and recognition. So we do an annual survey to measure what our engagement looks like as well as with climate. We do quarterly events with our staff, and then we have a variety of recognition programs that we hear from our staff in our survey that they like and want to continue to see not only the structured recognition, but some of the more informal recognition. And then our department also coordinates community partnerships. So we do that with our schools and try and partner them with resources that help them in their classrooms with specific to CTE, VSP, or our special education programs. Next. In terms of external communication, we do rely heavily on digital communication. As I mentioned, we transitioned our website, which included our intranet, to Final Site last school year. And we actually received an award from the National School Public Relations Association this past summer for our new sites, much more streamlined than our previous sites, easy to navigate and find information. We also transitioned to Final Site Messages, XR, which is a rapid notification system, so phone, text, email, just recently to improve our communication with our greater community. We continue to work with our media through outreach to share information about district programs, recognitions and celebrations from our staff and students, and then making sure that our community is informed about district initiatives. We also have the Let's Talk platform to engage in two-way communication with our staff and community. One of the things that I'd like to highlight is our video work. We do a lot of wonderful videos. We just completed a series of all of our CTE programs that also won an award from INSPRA this past school year for the 26 plus different programs that we offer through our tech schools. And then we also are working on ADA Title II changes. That's a big focus of ours this school year. There are a lot of things that we're working on to make sure that we're compliant with ADA Title II going into next school year when the changes will be taking effect. And we're fortunate enough to have one of the leading experts working in our district. Janica Shear is on the communications team, and she's been presenting information around the country because we are one of the very few school districts that have made progress and have a plan in place as far as ADA Title II work at this time. So that's kind of a little wrap up of our communications efforts. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Doug Austin, the Chief Technology Officer for Special School District. Next slide, please. The technology department, we provide technology solutions for all of the districts. I'll try to keep this really brief because it's a long presentation that you guys sat through. Essentially, the key element here is we coordinate with all of the partner districts technology department to deploy hardware and software applications to support our students across, a multitude of environments and a multitude of different applications. A lot of these devices and applications are specialized to specific programs based on the students' specific needs. Next slide. And then a big thing for our district is security and access to data. We have to share data back and forth with every partner district. So we coordinate again with every partner district technology department to make sure that data is exchanged as securely as we possibly can. Access to data, user accounts, and applications that we utilize are all secured. We use the student data privacy agreements that are utilized throughout the state, and we coordinate those agreements not only between us and our vendors, but also with partner districts that those applications are going to be deployed in. And again, we provide support and technical assistance to all of our staff and students and families that utilize our devices in these various environments. And again, a lot of that is with very tight collaboration and coordination with each of the partner district technology departments. That's everything about technology services at Special School District in a nutshell. Thank you.
I have a really quick question, if I am allowed to ask. It's McKelvey from Melville.
Sure.
Yes,
So,
go ahead.
Mr. Austin, I apologize. I'm going to bring you back real quick. You talked about the last slide mentioned the data integration. I was just going to, since you kind of brought it up, are we any closer to the partner district data integration project? Have we seen any movement on that front?
Yes, we have. So we are working currently with the Hancock Place School District, and we're building out essentially a proof of concept. Work with them. They're going to onboard the platform, and they're going to use that not only for the students with special education services, but also students, general education students within their district. So we've been working with the vendor that is providing all of the software and platform, a vendor called Education Analytics, and we are providing data from our IEP software system related to the students that we are providing services for. And the very first district that we're onboarding is going to be Hancock Place, and they will have a view of all of their staff, and we'll have a view of all of the students, whether they're receiving special education services through special school district or general education students. And then our staff will have their caseload of special education students within the Hancock Place, and they'll be able to see the data from Hancock's Infinite Campus, student information system and any related data for assessments and other tools that we use to provide services and make decisions about the services and goals for those students.
Mr. Austin, thank you so much for your answer. I know how big of an undertaking it is because I've worked at a college with dual credit before, and it's hard to get dual credit to line up with a high school. That's only one. So I just want to say thank you so much for your work on that project and the update. We can't wait to hear how it goes.
Are there any additional questions? Oh, go ahead, Dr. Walker.
Yes, I have a question for Dr. Bolton. I can't remember what exactly the title was of your portion at this point, but you spoke about the equitable distribution of resources. It was like there were 3 buckets there, and one of them was the equitable distribution of resources. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, that is about the strategic plan.
Okay, I wanted to ask, when you think about the equitable distribution of resources, what are a couple of metrics or factors that you consider in trying to figure out how to distribute things equitably? Does that make sense? Like, what kinds of things are you looking at to help you think about how things should be distributed?
Absolutely. So some of the things we are looking at are the resources that are provided. So I'm just going to give a specific example for, say, supporting resources in our partner districts. Some of our districts have a much stronger multi-tiered system of support. And so they may already have a lot of interventions in place. But some districts may not have that strong system. So therefore, we might look at the resources needed by our teachers to provide services for our students in a different way. So we may be providing some more specific intervention programs for a particular district to ensure our students have the needed support.
Okay. Miss President Lee, may I please ask another question?
Sure.
Okay, this one is for Dr. Moore. I wanted to ask you, I know, so the question I have is a general question, but it also applies to Ferguson Florissant because I think we may be the only ones currently in this position based on the list I saw. When there is no director within the district, whose responsibility, like who absorbs that responsibility in the interim? Because as I understand it, the role of the director is pretty important. I think all the people who work for special school district report to that person, and so they're providing quite a bit of support. So I'm curious to know, how does that responsibility get managed while special school district is looking for a replacement?
Absolutely. Dr. Kyle Walker, myself, as well as Executive Director Dr. Lent has been supporting in that role. I have been working specifically with the cabinet level leadership to support Ferguson Florissant, and Dr. Lent has been supporting at the school level. We are both supporting the leadership team within the district as well, too.
All right, thank you.
This is Debbie Hopper, Parkway. I have a question. Also for Ms. Moore, Chiquita Moore, on the SSD partnership agreements, can you explain to us, are these partnership agreements customized to each district, each partner district, or is it a standard document that goes to every partner district and it says the same thing? And then I believe you mentioned that you're going to be evaluating the partnership agreements next year. And what do you anticipate coming out with that?
Thank you, Ms. Hopper. To respond to the first question, it is a standardized agreement. The customization comes in place as districts work through their agreements to identify action steps based upon their metrics that they acquire from each of those areas of the partnership agreement. So I would state that's where customization could potentially come in for each district, focusing on those areas specific to that district. And then regarding the evaluation, I talked about the revision of the actual partnership agreement. And so we're going to be looking at, in total, the partnership agreement and looking at any revisions that we feel collectively across the county, representation from each of the partner districts as well as SSD, to make any of those final changes and adjustments that we feel may be necessary to advance our work moving forward.
So I know our district is reviewing its partnership agreement right now. So are you saying that if we wanted some changes to our agreement, we could meet and talk about that?
So you're speaking specific to your district. What I'm speaking to is countywide, looking at that standard partnership agreement that you spoke to, understanding those pieces. From your district's perspective, I'm more than certain that what you feel might be necessary as recommendations can be brought to that committee from those individuals who will represent those districts to help us to finalize the plan moving forward.
So when you talk about the customization comes as based on our district metrics, is that something that's then put into the agreement, or is it an addendum to the agreement? How does that information get inserted to the partnership agreement for each particular district?
So each of the 7 categories that I spoke about, there is a metric for each of those areas. There are specific metrics for you to take a look at. From each of those 7 categories, the partner district as well as the SSD administrator may identify areas that they feel are important to focus on for the upcoming school year based upon what they've identified in the partnership agreement as areas to focus on. So for example, let's use data and technology. If we were working to support data integration in those particular areas, we would look to see what do we currently have in place? Are there any areas that are in progress that we may need to support and or focus on more than another area? Does that make sense?
Well, other than I'm just not seeing that in our partnership agreement, so I'm just kind of wondering where do we find that type of?
So you, Ms. Hopper, if you look within the partnership agreement, you mentioned the addendum. That's where you will find those metrics that are completed annually by both Dr. Matheson and Dr. Bloomingfield in your district. I can work with them to ensure that they're able to provide you with that information for your review.
So would that be in the appendix section you're talking about? Yeah, okay.
This is Carrie from Rockwood. I would second what Debbie is saying, because what we are seeing as board members is very generic. And we are not seeing the specific breakdown of those 7 subsets. So us as the representatives, we're only seeing the broad level. We don't see specific action plans for our district when we're signing off.
Thank you. I will provide this information back to your director as well as liaison to ensure that this information is provided to your attention.
Garrett B. from Hancock Place. From a simplistic standpoint, I think what both ladies are asking is, in my opinion, at least what I'm hearing, is what would be the difference between Parkway versus Rockwood? What different metrics are in one versus the other? And is there an example that can be brought forward? I mean, obviously, each district has their own thing and it's a contract, so I'm not sure the minutia how to actually present that in a real time scenario, but some sort of difference between one partner agreement versus another one that would show the difference between the metric.
So each partner district has the same partnership agreement. Within that partnership agreement, as you complete the evaluation, the evaluative pieces of the agreement, the metrics, you are determining where you might see an area of focus for your district specifically. For example, again, data integration might be taking place in one district versus not being in place in another. So it could be in two different, if you were looking on a metric scale, you can have one more advanced than the other district. And so you're looking at several metrics under each of those 7 categories. I would highly recommend that you go back and review the partnership agreement in its entirety, as well as looking at the appendix. And those metrics will help you to determine where your district might stand. Many districts are presenting this information. It's at your discretion how you want this information presented to you. Each of your board presidents, as well as your governing council members, are signing off on these partnership agreements. And so if you're speaking with these questions, I would highly suggest that you go back and have conversations with your liaisons as well as your directors to ensure that they are providing to your attention what you feel might be important, as well as having those conversations with your superintendent. I have received information from those 3 districts that have provided questions today, and I will follow up with those districts to ensure that you are receiving the information that will be supportive to respond to your questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, this is Betsy Rachel with Hazelwood. I have a question for the gentleman who talked about technology, and if you could remind me of your name, I'd appreciate it.
I'm Doug Austin, Chief Technology Officer. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Austin, I appreciated your answer about the pilot that you're working with to have the data systems speaking to, cooperating with each other. And I'm not a well-versed technological person, but what you were describing sounded to me more like from a school side of things. I'm curious if there's anything SSD is or can be doing to help from the parent interface. So for example, I know of a parent in my district that in Hazelwood that we use Infinite Campus, right? And they can get on Infinite Campus and go to the contact list, and they can see all of their students' teachers for the whole year, even classes they're not even in yet, like for a high school student. But their SSD staff are not in there, neither their co-teacher for their class or their case manager. And one individual came to me in particular because they were transitioning from middle to high school, and they didn't know who the site coordinator was. They didn't know who the case manager was going to be. They didn't know who any co-teachers were going to be, and they didn't know who to contact. And they were hoping to get in touch with someone, that week before school. And all I could tell them was to try calling the school directly. But I'm curious if SSD has any sort of platform for parents to try to access that information, because a lot of times our parents, frankly, they don't have the time and the capacity to call the school during the school day hours. And so if they have some means of looking up email address at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, that would really be helpful. Can you speak to that at all, Mr. Austin?
So specifically, our platforms that we have for parents are for parents whose students are enrolled in special school district schools. So we kind of rely on the parent portals of the partner districts for the students enrolled in those schools. We do have on our public website all the information about our staff who's assigned to each partner district. There's a section for each partner district on our website. We also explain all of our various processes, for example, the transition process, and we have a transition team that works with the parents to put together a transition plan when they go from middle school to high school and then post high school education. But we don't have a single platform currently, but that is certainly something I can work with our team on and see, what that might look like. We are, constantly trying to improve our resources and, make that available to the public as much as possible. But at the current time, we rely on the parent portal information from each of the partner districts that the students are enrolled, rather than having a separate one that's a special school district. But those are certainly good recommendations, and I'll take that back with the team, and we'll discuss what that might look like.
Okay, and certainly I have brought this to my own superintendent in Hazelwood, but for whatever reason the changes have not been made yet. So I'm not sure where the hiccup is, but I'll follow up with our superintendent on that. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Well, I want to thank you all. As we know, Governing Council plays a critical role to just ensuring responsibility and oversight, and it's important that we work together to really strengthen the commitment with transparency, accountability, and also fiscal responsibility, which is why we have a fiscal presentation here at each one of our meetings. I want to say thank you to each of our individuals from our leadership team tonight who presented and their expertise in their areas. As we continue, you all to navigate and assess really our financial situation, we will continue to be transparent as we foster transparency and move forward. While we can't change the previous missteps, we can trust to ensure and build a stronger and more stable future for the district. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions before we move on to our next agenda item? Okay. Next up is 6.02, approval of the FY26 budget adjustments.
You need a motion, correct?
Well, I didn't know if there was any further presentation.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There's not a presentation.
Yeah, so is there a motion to approve the FY26 budget adjustments as presented?
Hancock, please. Garrett Meese.
That's Garrett with the first. Is there a second?
Rittner, second. Megan Vetter.
Normandy. I got Megan Vetter with the second. Sorry, Teresa, you gotta be quicker than that.
I know I told you on mute, but
all those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have our PAC updates. Is a PAC representative here tonight?
We do not have a PAC update tonight.
All right. Next up is our calendar of events. Our next meeting is scheduled for December the 1st at 7. And that is in person. And then we'll meet again on March the 2nd. And then our last meeting for the year will be June the 1st. All of the remaining meetings will be in person at SSD Central Office. Are there any announcements? Hearing none, I will just make that I hope to see you all at the MSBA conference in Kansas City. And without any further ado, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Teresa Pearson.
All right, Teresa with the first. Is there a second?
Garrett Meese, Hancock, please.
Garrett with the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? You'll be by yourself. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much for the discussion and for being present tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, good night.